Welcome back everybody to the Wandering Samurai, studying which review and analyze every single act told in Rurouni Kenshin, and today's act is Act 63, Makimachi Misao. We're going to spend a whole lot of time talking about Makimachi Misao because this chapter is named after Makimachi Misao, but the first thing that I really want to note on is Misao's boy howdy, because this is a language point of interest worth talking about. In Japan, the Japanese language, there are different Japanese dialects all throughout the country. In the north end, there's a dialect there. In the Kanto area, where Tokyo is at, that's considered standard Japanese, and that's its own dialect. And then in the south end, in Kyushu, there's a dialect there. In Kyoto, where Misao is from, also has its own dialect, which is called Kansai Ben, or the Kansai dialect, and it's mostly what you hear from people from Osaka and Kyoto. And I'm assuming, because I don't have the Japanese text in front of me, that when they used boy howdy for Misao in this speech bubble specifically, it was because she said something in the Japanese text that was closely related to something that somebody from the Kansai area would say. And to, I guess, showcase this or adaptate this into English, they used the boy howdy, which is something that you hear from, I guess, Southerners in English, in the English text, I guess, or in English dialects. And I think that that's pretty cool, but I also think that is something worth pointing out to the readers because Misao is from Kyoto, as we find out in this chapter, and I think that that's worth pointing out because we find that out here. So let's get into the chapter summary review, and we'll go from there. The young girl named Makimachi Misao is convinced that because Kenshin risks carrying a sword illegally, it must be worth something. Misao begins a one-sided battle against Kenshin, punching and throwing kunai knives towards him, but she only managed to ruin her own cloak. Kenshin takes the money she stole and tries to return it to the rightful owner, noticing that the thieves also stole it from a bank. After returning the money, the two walk back and Misao properly introduces herself, revealing that she's searching for someone and that she needed the money to return to Kyoto after setting on a trip to find this person. While walking on the bridge, the two are ambushed by the Yakuza group that Misao conned in the previous chapter. Kenshin destroys the bridge using a technique he utilized in the Bakumatsu, and when Misao comes to, she compliments Kenshin's skill, noting that he's almost as good as the person she's searching for, who turned out to be Shinomori Aoshi. Alright, so before we get to Misao, let's talk about Kenshin, because in this chapter, man, I am doing this all backwards, but Kenshin destroys a bridge, and it's apparently a skill that he utilized during the Bakumatsu, and I think that this is just a really cool thing to include into this chapter, because we haven't really talked about the Bakumatsu in a while. We are here because Kenshin is fighting his successor, or he's going to fight his successor in the Bakumatsu, and it's all the events of the Bakumatsu kind of coming back into the present, and I'm happy that it's here again, and that we're gonna start talking about the Bakumatsu again because it's so prevalent to the events that unfold in Kyoto. But enough about Kenshin, because he's not the star of this chapter, or he's not the star of this video. It is Misao Makimachi, the annoying, brash ninja girl. Alright, so we already kind of talked about Misao's dialect, but let's go ahead and talk about Misao's skill. It's worth noting that in this chapter, Misao does several things that has the potential, who is showcasing the potential to be a very competent or very skilled ninja in the near future. However, she has not quite finished developing her skills, and that's the reason why when she's trying to fight Kenshin, it's very one-sided. But nonetheless, Kenshin can recognize that she is budding potential, and that she's not the average ninja. And, you know, he makes fun of her for it, just, like, based on her clothes and, you know, how she's acting in this chapter. But this is all for the reveal at the end of the chapter, when we find out that Aoshi is who she's searching for. And this is really cool because then it's setting up Misao to be a player in this story. I mean, we know that she's here, she's important because she's made it from the previous chapter and now she's in here, but it's not just she's just some girl, or it's not that she's just a skilled ninja. Like, she has her own arc that's being set up here, and for a very new face to be introduced into the story, I think that that's really cool, and we can see it from the way her skills are showcased in this first chapter, or in the second chapter for her, I guess. She's skilled enough to con some, grunts in the local town Yakuza, but not skilled enough to deal with Kenshin. And that's pretty cool. So let's go ahead and talk about now Misao's personality, because Misao's personality is also a point of interest in this chapter, because she's going to be the one that's going to be traveling with Kenshin from here on out, I guess, or at least for these two chapters, if we're going to just look at them solely, the previous chapter and then this one. Misao has a very contrasting personality from, I guess, let's talk about maybe Kaoru. I think that this is worth noting because the very fact that she's on this trip itself, and the personality that Misao has, being this like brash and very upbeat, spunky girl, she's bold enough to go on a trip searching for somebody like who she's searching for, Aoshi. But, contrasting that with Kaoru, who just a couple chapters ago, she was in bed, heartbroken, wanting or yearning for Kenshin, or crushed that Kenshin is gone. But, and it's not to diminish Kaoru, but it's also that Misao and her mindset and the type of girl that she is that she went on this trip alone, and that's what I'm really trying to point out, is that she is bold enough to go on this trip alone, versus somebody like Kaoru, who's a little bit more polite, who's a little bit more soft-spoken, and she really only shows her true self around the people that she's comfortable around, such as Yahiko and Kenshin and the rest of the Kenshin Gumi. But it's not really to try and compare the two, because I'm not trying to do that, but I'm really just trying to, I guess, in a way, justify how annoying Misao is or comes across in these chapters. And that's really just because she needs to be bold enough to do the things that she does. And I think that making the choice to have her have the personality that she has, in a way, justifies it. And justifies a lot of the actions that she does. It's because she's a young, dumb teenager who is bold enough to go on a trip by herself, and is bold enough to, try and con the men and steal money for her trips and to get by in life. She's a type of survivor, and she has these skills that are that she's learned, I guess, to kind of get her through, but hasn't yet mastered. She's still a student of ninjutsu, I guess. And in her being a young, dumb teenager, it's also one of the reasons why Misao is willing to give or pay Kenshin a compliment, saying that he's good enough. But in her eyes, because of the way she sees the world and the way she looks up to the person that she's very fond of, Kenshin is good, but he's not as good as Aoshi, who we find out at the end of the chapter. But, it's just kind of like, it really just cements that Misao is a young, dumb teenage girl who is still growing up and has a lot of growing up to do. And that's showcased in her skill, and it's showcased in her personality. And I think that was the point that I've been trying to make, and I've been going about it in the long-winded way. Anyways, let's go ahead and talk about the reveal of Aoshi Shinomori at the end of the chapter. Because Aoshi being the big reveal of who Misao is searching for just adds a ton of layers to this already dense narrative. And this really cool arc that we're in is the very fact that we are bringing back an old villain or an old antagonist from the past, and then having somebody that's hanging around Kenshin that is directly connected to the previous antagonist just makes it so much more interesting and so cool. Oh my god, I am excited. It justifies Aoshi coming back. I've already talked about how it's really cool that we have all of these old threats from Tokyo coming into Kyoto, and it's all kind of just layering on top of each other, and everything that's set up is being played out. It's kind of giving it a justification, or I guess further expanding upon what was already set up. But then to bring in this new character who is directly involved or directly connected with Kenshin's I guess rival in this sense, it just makes it so much more interesting as us, the readers, knowing that Aoshi is also going to Kyoto, and now Kenshin is dealing with this girl who is looking for that guy, and yet Kenshin doesn't know that Aoshi is also going to Kyoto, excuse me. Oh my god, it's so cool. It's so exciting. I can't wait for the next chapter, and I can't wait for the rest of Kyoto. But this, ladies and gentlemen, has been the end of Act 63, Makimachi Misao. If you like this video and you want to see more, then consider subscribing to the channel, leave a thumbs up, and comment down below something that you enjoyed about this chapter. I, for one, am just excited and ecstatic about where we're going, and I cannot wait for more. We'll see you all in the next chapter. But for now, bye, ciao. Because, Misao, because,